Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Access.
Do it live.
Wired Access.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
Welcome, everybody. This is a Hurrdat Sports Production Wired Access podcast. I am the host, DJ K-Dub Omaha, and to my left, I have the athletic director of College of St. Mary's here in Omaha, of the home of the Flames, Jeff Johnson. Then I have to his left, we have the athletic director of Papillion, Vista South, the Titans, Mr. VA, as they say, or Jeremy VanAckeren, Mr. 2023 Nebraska Athletic Director. Congratulations on your new position.
Thanks, Wick.
And I think one of the reasons that I have you two here is because I think for you, it's got to be a little like passing down the torch and seeing the torch flame, as you might say, to where it is now. So if you think back 15 years, maybe even more, whatever you want to go back to, and you think of where Papillion South was then when it first started and when you were first a part of it as an athletic director, did you see where it would be today?
You know, that was my hope and my vision. You just never know what's going to happen in athletics, and that's what's so exciting and unique about athletics is you just never know what road you're going to go down. But you know, when we opened, we hired some really good coaches, and we have really good kids and really good parents, and they went to work. And before you know it, about year 5, 6, you could start to see some real success. And we've had some really good runs in some sports like volleyball and baseball and softball, cross country. But I did. I thought that the ingredients are all there. Good facilities, good people, good coaches. That usually equates to success.
So you move on from the athletic department, you move over to the assistant principal part. What made you make that decision back in your career?
You know, moving into the principal role, I think Dr. Schoenweis, who was the principal when we opened, moved on in June. So that's kind of late to be hiring a principal. So I felt like it was probably best for the school and for everybody involved for me to take on the principal role at that time. Plus, I knew we had a good AD waiting in Jeremy. So that transition was pretty smooth.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up. So, Jeremy, if you think back to 15 years ago, you think back before you even took over the AD, what process were you going through in your life and your career that in due time made you go, okay, this is what I want to do and who I want to be?
Well, coached and taught for 16 years, basketball, football, track. And so got to the point where I wanted to do something else, make an impact with kids and adults in a different way. And so got into administration. My family and I took a leap, came to Papillion and been here 17 years.
And where were you before Papillion?
I started my career in Lee, Nebraska.
Okay.
Lee Community Schools for 4 years.
Where's that at? I've never heard of it.
It's on Highway 91. So all those schools along there, Clarkson, Dodge, Howells, Lee.
Okay.
The 2 Humphrey schools, Lindsay, Holy Family. So didn't have to go very far for a game. It was right down the road.
Everything was nice,
travel was nice, yeah. And then had a chance to go back home and teach and coach at Norfolk High, where we're both from. Jeff graduated from there, and so did I.
So, see, this is where the connection goes even further. But see, what people don't normally get the part of the story is where it all begins. Obviously, you both graduated from the same high school. You come from a lot of the same regimen, a lot of the same breed, as some people like to say. You know, knowing what you guys grew up with, obviously, you from Norfolk and seeing Jeremy come in. What was some things that you think that came in from a small town that could be brought into Papillion, and what was some things that would make it hard?
You know, going back where I started in Plainview, Nebraska, which is 30 miles north of Norfolk. And I was a football coach, wrestling coach, track coach. So you learn to really manage your time and you're just going 100 miles an hour. So for me personally, I learned that work ethic and the ability to juggle many things at one time. And then my first administrative job was actually back in Norfolk, where I went to high school. So our connection goes
way back.
Yeah, 30.
Further than that.
So I coached him.
Oh boy.
in Legion baseball. We didn't have high school baseball back then, but he's got a twin brother, and I coached both of them through midgets and senior Legion.
Right.
So just think of how he sometimes gets on kids and athletes. What was something you could give for when he was young and your player?
Here we go.
Come on, you got to give something good. We can't have this conversation and leave it soft.
Oh, he was a coach's dream kind. He did everything that you asked him to do, and he worked hard and was a good teammate. I got on his brother probably a little bit more. His brother was a pitcher.
Okay.
I got on him a little bit more than anything. I had to watch your dad.
Okay.
I had to keep him settled down in the crowd because he liked to get on the umpires.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. But yeah, no, it was good to be able to, when you start something from scratch and you turn the reins of that over to somebody, it's good that you can turn it over to somebody that you know and you trust.
Oh,
and
trust and know is has to be at top of the.
And I knew that I was going to have a pretty stiff learning curve going from AD to principal. So it was nice to have somebody that was a coach. He coached in our building. He was a girls basketball coach. He had some administrative experience, and I knew that he could pick up the ball and run and not need a ton of help.
So coming from the small cities and coming from Norfolk, what brings Papio to the limelight for both of you? For you first, obviously coming in, and then you second.
Well, we need to get you out in Nebraska a little bit. You're talking
right.
like Norfolk's, Norfolk 25,000.
Oh, okay.
We actually got a McDonald's in Norfolk and everything.
I don't mean it as a bad thing, but when you think of OPS, that's what I'm used to. I'm used to OPS and even down to Lincoln. You think and you compare. Now, obviously, I've coached some teams where we had to play Norfolk. Don't get me wrong; they're not there to hang out. Yep. They're there to put your face in the dirt. Mm-hmm. So it's nothing on that factor. It's more of the different cultures, the different variety of students, the different backgrounds where not everybody here in this area is used to the hardworking, the as people say, the blue collar. Sometimes things are overgiven and it's a whole different environment, but maybe it's not. Maybe I'm overthinking the Norfolk to Papillion is.
I think it all starts in the weight room. And when we put our athletic department together, one of the first things that I wanted to do was find a strength coach. And when we grew up, coaches did the weight room. So the football coach would be in there, basketball coach, so on and so forth. Well, that's become a specialized occupation. And strength coaches know far more than anybody else as far as how to get kids ready to play athletics. So we were one of the first schools at that time, 20 years ago, to hire a full-time strength coach that didn't coach another sport.
Okay.
So in Norfolk, we had to work really hard in the weight room because we had to compete with the Lincolns and the Omahas that were much bigger than us. When I went there, we had 1,200 kids, and we're playing schools with 18,
24.
Yeah. So we had to work extra hard in order to be able to compete with them. So we worked really hard in the weight room. So I wanted to transfer that to Papillion, Vista South. And right now I would say our weight program, our strength, and Jeremy's carried it on, is second to none around.
Oh, the new facility is amazing. We obviously have to thank the Titan defenders for coming through on that. And Jeremy, obviously from Norfolk to Papio, what was one of the biggest things you felt you could bring? And
I think to add to Jeff, I think playing there, coaching there for 8 years, it's about convincing the kids that we have to work harder than everybody else. Really got our kids to get up to play against teams from Lincoln and Omaha. Not an us against the world mentality, but we have to do the extra things in order to be competitive, in order to win games against those teams like that. In Norfolk, Columbus was a natural rival. Fremont, Hastings, Grand Island, who, we've been playing for years, but schedule changed over time as I was getting ready to leave, and we were playing more and more. We're doing statewide scheduling, play more Lincoln and Omaha schools, and just playing with a chip on your shoulder, and I've tried to carry that over to our kids a little bit when I coached, when I got to Papio South. And, I think that, I don't know that that's necessary anymore because we're growing, but you can still instill, put into our kids' minds that, hey, let's, we have nice facilities here, but just because we have nice facilities doesn't mean we're going to be good. We have to put in the work, put in the time to get better. for some kids, they really understand that. Other kids, it takes some convincing to get them over that hump. But and Jeff's right. We've really excelled in some sports. In other ones, we're catching up real quick. But to be balanced across the board, I think is a challenge, and that's something that we are working on to this day. So.
And when you guys look at so far what you've done with the athletic director position, both at high school level, college level for yourself, not only you did it for Doane as well, correct? And then College of St. Mary's. What do you think your number one struggle is that maybe the average person won't even know it's a thing for an athletic director? Because I could say, if I say to the average person, what is an athletic director, they'll just say someone who makes sure the sports run. But I know that picture is very slim of what you actually have to do. What do you think your hardest challenge is between?
I'll answer. I'll talk about high school, and then I'll talk about college. At the high school level, I think it's all of the select sports and trying to balance, kids playing a lot of volleyball games and trying to play basketball or run track, and they lift at school, then they go lift at a specialized place. And it's, how do you balance all that and make sure that you're keeping the kids healthy? And I think there's a lot of burnout. I do. I think that, a fourth grader playing 60 baseball games is a lot. And trying to do everything else. So it's where society has taken it. We have to deal with it, and we have to do the best we can to do right by the kids. So I think that's a real struggle at the high school level for all the coaches and ADs.
Yeah.
You want to?
Yeah. To add to that, I think what that has done too is eliminated a lot of multi-sport athletes. So it's taken kids who could help us in 2, maybe 3 sports. Now they're specializing because they're convinced somehow, some way that they need to be in that club sport year round. So it's hurt in that way with some sports that probably aren't as important to those kids, but would help us at the high school level if they weren't committed to that sport year round. I think that's a challenge.
And how do you guys, I guess the biggest thing is, what is there that you guys can do to try to help the situation? Because obviously the harder you push, possibly the harder someone will say, all right, I'm not doing anything for school, not just that sport. Mm-hmm. How do you find that happy medium, or what are some things that you guys have challenged yourself to?
That's a good question. I was a young coach in Norfolk, and I was girls basketball coach. And so I fought club volleyball for a long time. And I told the kids they had to make a decision, and I was very, very passive aggressive about it in some ways. Figured out late in Norfolk that the girls I'm pushing away are the ones that I need.
Gotcha.
And so when I got to Papillion and got involved in basketball, and there's some good volleyball players that play basketball. If you go back to the Ralstons and Hunter and those girls, the key thing is to sit down with them and their parents and communicate what your expectations are. How can we make this work? I understand the volleyball is very important to you, but I want them part of our basketball program because they're big pieces of our program. So,
well, and I'm glad that you say that.
Communication's big there.
When you say that communication, I only say it from my experience when I was at South. Obviously, it was when basketball was pretty big compared to football. So it was harder to get those basketball athletes to come to football, to get the coaches on the same page. Sure. From the coaching standpoint that you were at one point to the athletic director, how do you separate how you approach it from each position? Because obviously as a coach, I want the basketball to do just as good. Sure. But now as the AD, I just want the school to do good. And I want to make sure that all the coaches understand that that's our goal. How does that portray at your school?
When I give advice to our coaches, I give advice based on the experiences that I've had and the advice that I was given. So when I give it to you, you do what you want with it, but this what has worked for me in the past. I'm going through a little bit of that now with our girls basketball program. And so Coach Gerles and I had a great conversation a couple weeks ago and gave some ideas on how to get through, how to keep everybody out, and how to maintain numbers, even though club soccer and club volleyball are a big part of basketball kids. And so, you give suggestions. You try to not to micromanage as much as possible, because if things don't work out, they could come back to you and say, "Now, wait a minute, you told me to do this and it's not working. So what's next?" So try to give them ideas, more than one suggestion, so they have some things to pick through, and then go from there. But it's tough. I mean, it's hard because you're not involved with those kids day in and day out like they are. You're not at practice every day. You don't spend time on the road with them. You're not in a bus.
So you might hear like, we really need to keep this one kid, but if you really go to a practice or to an event or see their body language and their feeling,
Sure.
Some people don't understand. Yeah, you might be the best athlete, but if your body language and everything sells another sport and you show the precedence of what sport you're in now is not important, it will hurt a team more than it helps having that player. Now, at the college level, what's some of the things that you were noticing? Obviously, we got through the high school part.
Some of the same thing. I think, College of St. Mary is such a unique place. It's, we like to say it's a little hidden gem in the middle of Omaha. We have some of the best facilities around. Our indoor track is just a year old. We've been hosting high school track meets. We've had 4 last week, and we have 5 this week.
Oh my goodness!
Different high schools getting kids on campus. But again, it's a similar thing. And to piggyback that, I think it comes down to parents and kids, because we're in the education-based athletics. So whether it's the only colleges that aren't in education-based athletics are probably Division I schools that are, they need to win because it's about making money for the institution. High schools, small colleges it's about getting an education and making whatever you want to do next in life. It gives you those skills to be successful at that. So we focus a lot on that, and we try to encourage the girls that we recruit. We have some really strong academic programs, and it's hard. It's hard to be a student athlete and go to school in college. It's hard in high school because it's so time consuming, but we make it work. And I think when they're all done, it's such a great accomplishment. I told some of our basketball girls, we didn't have a great season in basketball, but I said, you know something? I said, I've been out of this for a long time. I think I graduated high school almost 40 years ago. I don't remember what my records were. No. I remember who my teammates were. I remember some of the trips. I remember my coaches. I remember the relationships that I built. So it's not in the moment, it's about winning and losing, but overall it's about, what does this teach me and what skills do I gain to make my career better?
Well, and why you say that, you brought up the fact that it's obviously an education base with Division I or just the NIL in general. How does that affect a college like College St. Mary's for what you do? Because obviously now you can't fully arrange it. I don't know what the NIL does for your school, but how does it help, hurt, or what did that change these past couple of years for you?
NAIAA is actually doing some NIL stuff, and we would love to do some NIL stuff. We haven't built a relationship yet with anybody. Obviously, healthcare would be a great partner with us. We do have a partnership with Children's Hospital. We have a team doctor from there. Miller Orthopedic is our orthopedic people. Occupational therapy is a big major. Physician's assistant's a big major. So as we progress through this, NIL hasn't been around that long. Yeah. And it's trickling down. So I think you will see some of the NAIA schools participating in some NIL activities. I think more for us, it's about helping our program more so than individuals. Perfect. Creighton kind of got together, and all their athletes, when it started, got together and did some NIL stuff. They're branching out a little bit more because they have some programs that are really successful, but that we would attack it as a program, not necessarily as we have a great volleyball player that can go out and earn some money with her name.
Perfect. That's good to hear. So if you're out there looking for College St. Mary's, I mean, he's telling you it's
give me a call.
That's right. Give him a call. And while we bring up NIL, obviously another thing is the open enrollment. Obviously, Jeremy, that's something you guys might be venturing in. You might be able to talk about it. You might not, but you both have dealt with it as not only as teachers, coaches, principals, and in the education, but how does that hurt a school district like Papillion to be where the open enrollment is so hard to get into, but yet you have other programs that are getting kids from everywhere. And then obviously it's who's getting who and stuff like that. How do you guys attack it? Or is it something that can be, I believe they're going into some open enrollment. What was it like dealing with that?
Jeff dealt with it some as an AD, and then we closed for quite a while. And we just recently opened, but small numbers at each grade. So it's not a lot of kids. I would tell you, I think if you talk to a lot of our coaches, and I talked to a lot of them, we've met as a group more than once. It's very differing by coach and by program, to be honest. I mean, some love the culture they have. They love the kids they have. They love the kids that are coming. And so they don't want anything to disrupt that. That's some of it. And the same token, we offer some things academically that maybe some other schools don't as well. We have a lot of academies in our building, are offsite and run through our building. High number of AP courses, some dual enrollment. We have a program with Metro. So there's some advantages academically too. We don't have a block schedule. We have a traditional 7-period day. Some kids like that. Some kids don't like sitting through a 90-minute class period. So
I'm not going to lie. When this class schedule would switch to those block days for the tests and all, I'm almost out after half of it. So I don't understand.
So yeah, it's a challenge, I think. I mean, everybody, I think, I wouldn't say winning is the biggest thing, but everybody wants to win. I mean, if you're a coach or an athlete, you're competitive by nature, I would believe, and you want to win. And so having the best group of kids that you can have in your program to help you do that is important, obviously. But you also want that kid to fit into your program and be part of your school, not just be part of basketball or be part of football, but be part of your school. Make a difference in your building in a positive way. So it's kind of differing, to be honest with you. And I don't know that if I brought 10 coaches in here, they would give you the same answer on how they feel about it. I think it differs, so.
I think from my perspective, I was in high school education for 33 years. So I go back a ways. I think it goes back to the why. Like, why there's a state law on the books that says a parent can pick whatever school they want to for their kid, and it says for educational purposes. So if a parent feels like the school that they're at is not serving their student academically the way it should, they should have every right to go to a school that they want to. It's changed, and that's part of the problem. It's not so much academically motivated as it is athletic and activity motivated. So I think that's where it's changed probably the last 10 years. And as I look at it from an athletic side of point of view, if I had a son that wanted to be a quarterback, but just couldn't beat out the quarterback at his school, I would want him to be able to go someplace and play. Where I think it's really changed is we're creating super teams, and those kids aren't just going to a school. They're picking a school where they think they can win a state championship or win big. And I think that's from an education-based athletic program, that's where that's wrong.
See, and I'm glad you brought that up because, I always hate to go back to it, but if you think of someone like that has made it to the NFL, like Noah Fant, he didn't go to South because of the football program being dominant. He went because he knew he could play both ways, but he also knew he could get his education that he still wanted. So when you see athletes do stuff like that, and it's not for the wins, losses, but then you see other ones that go for the win, it's got to be hard as an educator and as someone that has had kids that go through this program where you're because I could be honest, I let my oldest daughter choose where she wanted to go. We're by K-Part. We had a couple choices. And I left it up to her, and she chose Papillion South. We tried the open enrollment, but obviously we got denied because it wasn't at open enrollment. Like we did in October. You find out in April you didn't make it. We had 7 business days to sell our house because we were in K-Part, so a base housing was coming. Or military family said, if you sell it by the 31st, we'll buy it. So we're like, sweet, we're out. but it puts a stress because we did it for education, but yet people are doing it for sports, and it feels more fluent than what I had to go through. Like, so when you see like the ups and downs of families that happens to, being a part of the education, being a part of the athletics, like, where's the happy medium, I guess? Where can you find a happy medium?
I think too, I think a misnomer a little bit for parents is that I'm going to go to this school because my son will get a Division I scholarship. If he doesn't transfer to this school, he's not going to get one. Well, there's a lot of other things out there now that aren't high school related that can get you to that goal. There's a lot of camps. There's a lot of the 7-on-7 stuff, all of those type of things, the AAU things for basketball. I mean, that's where kids are seen.
I
don't see many college coaches coming through our gym to watch basketball and volleyball matches anymore.
And that's what sucks, because you're saying it, but of course you need those kids to be in whatever sports during that season as well, whether it is the volleyball, whether it is the basketball, but they know now how they get seen the most. So, like, is there even a counteractive? Because I know, like, for soccer, there's programs out there for soccer that say, don't you dare touch that school soccer ball.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just sucks, because those are, like you said, the moments you're going to remember. And I'm not saying the AAU, you won't remember your buddies on the road trip that try to hit you in your chest, to play around. But I'm just saying, like, it's one of those where what moments and how do you guys try to guide parents that have athletes that even your coaches are interested in?
So I would tell you from the college level, from the recruiting standpoint, there's something called Huddle out there that has totally changed how college coaches recruit. So like Jeremy said, I don't think you see a ton of college coaches in your gyms watching games like they used to, because they can find it on Huddle. And then kids are sending videos of themselves through Huddle. So our coaches at College St. Mary spend a lot of time in their office. They all have TVs and they have Huddle film. So the part where you think, well, if I go to a school that's going to win a state championship, it's not about college recruiting. It's about winning a state championship and getting the notoriety, because the colleges are going to find kids. The funnel that we go through just at our level is amazing, how many kids can come through there. And our volleyball coach could have 5,000 names on his recruit list that have shown some interest in playing college volleyball. So he weeds through that list to see who would match College of St. Mary. But the biggest thing, and this would be the thing that I would say, is I think we've gotten away from making sure that kids develop themselves physically. And this goes back to select sports. Again, if I'm playing 50 games, can I get to the weight room? Can I do the running and agility drills that the coach wants me to do? Because we often see at the high school level, these kids that played select sports up through junior high, they get to us and they get cut because they're not athletically ready to go, because they've spent all their time traveling around playing games.
Gotcha. And Jeremy, how about for your down at the high school level? What's some of the things you feel like, because obviously your coaches have to recognize the junior titans that come up through, because they're a part of the program, they're a part of the brand. How is it situating and maneuvering with that situation? And how does that go with the middle schools? Because I could say from my experience, the hardest struggle is knowing that, okay, I'm going to have my son play junior titans football, but not middle school football, because obviously I don't want him doing both.
It's tough.
And it really, I think, almost adds a crutch in one way too. I know that we're still junior titans, but doesn't mean that it's all the same and it's all feeding the same.
Yeah, it's and I think if you look at our feeder programs, they've been pretty successful. The numbers are really good, which tells you that's still an avenue that people want to pursue. Families want to send their kids through junior titan basketball or football, wrestling. We have a Titan Volleyball Academy that Coach Richmond started before he had left for go to Minnesota, but we've maintained that. So the numbers are good. I think it would be more concerning if our numbers just went downhill quickly. But it doesn't mean we don't have kids involved in other AAU type of on AAU teams, especially with soccer, and we do in basketball. Some of our best basketball players are AAU kids, not necessarily junior Titan kids, and we were junior Titan kids for a short amount of time, if I remember, and then they wanted to move on to a different type of schedule and more competitive type of team, and so that which is a natural progress. I don't know that that's a big deal to me, to be honest with you, and I think our coaches would tell you the same. They want our kids to be challenged and be ready when they're freshmen. So if they have the means to do it, go for it. But to answer your question, I don't know that we fight a lot with junior Titan programs and other AAU type of things. Football is a challenge. We fought that for quite a while. I was at the middle school for a while, and I was AD for a year working with Jeff, and we were like, how can we make this work? I mean, you're talking about kids playing 8 junior Titan or junior high football games, and then a 16-game junior Titan schedule, and
it's too many.
Kids playing 24 football games. It's just too many at grade 7 and 8. So I think that what that's involved into is kids who don't want to be as serious about football play junior high, middle school football. Kids that really want to be serious about it are now junior Titan football players. So I don't know that we have any crossover anymore.
Yeah,
very, very few. So,
I know it was one thing I always just recommended parents just, especially with concussion rates and all that seriousness. Now, obviously, let's go up to an upside. I mean, what's your biggest accomplishment that you felt that you brought so far to not only College St. Mary's, but what's the biggest thing that you left at Papillion South before you ventured on to the college rankings?
I think one of the things that we were able to do at Papillion South through the years was just hire really, really good teachers and coaches. And, I've been gone. This is the 4th year. They're starting to, teachers are starting to get out of the profession. So that, when I talk to these guys, I haven't been up there much, but when I talk to them, it's like, well, another teacher's leaving. And I would say it's getting close to half probably. Cycling through.
The Johnson regime is almost gone. The ones that he all knows or can get him in the building for free,
Yes. Well,
he walks in for free.
But nobody knows that building like I do. I know the doors that don't work,
I hear you.
So I think I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I understand that if you hire good people, and it makes you look good. And if you get them what they need and you stay out of their way and you let them go to work, both in the classroom and in athletics, that results will be there. So at College of St. Mary, I think, one of my first things was to attack the weight room. Like I felt like our girls deserved a full-time strength coach, and we didn't have one. So we had to do some reshuffling and repositioning of money and staff, but we were able to hire a full-time strength coach the first time for the university. We had strength coaches that would come in periodically and work with our athletes, but I wanted somebody that was there consistently that they would get to know. So for the last year, we've had a full-time person, and we're starting to see the results.
That's awesome. And then when you say that, obviously you brought that on now with being a medical school. Do you have kids that want to help and try to follow in that you can have as a second set of eyes and add more eyes to help them and learn it, but also build your companionship up between the school and the
so one of our big majors is exercise science.
Nice.
So a lot of those girls want to go into athletic training or strength and conditioning. We also offer a master's in that program as well. So and we're working on graduate assistants. We don't have them yet, but we're working on that. So I definitely see down the road, if we have graduate assistant positions, that we'll put those kids to work in the weight room.
Now, obviously, you've brought this all to attention. You've got things headed in the right direction. When you took over, were you surprised that some of these things weren't there? Was it something that you felt like, obviously you noticed it right away.
I think College of St. Mary's is going through a growth spurt, so to speak, in athletics. So, and then COVID hit. So when I got there, I'm at the end of COVID. So I lived through COVID at Doane. And then I was an interim athletic director there. I came back home, going to retire again. And then
the famous R word.
Yeah. I've retired twice. I tell people that. But this job opened up, and I liked my time at Doane. So I applied, and COVID's winding down, and it's a different world than before COVID. So
if you thought you knew College St. Mary's before, you don't.
You don't.
No, you don't.
But during that same time, they had raised a bunch of money to build a field house and revamp the athletic facilities. So from an NAIAA standpoint, we have our own softball field. We have our own soccer field. And our soccer field is a soccer field. It's not a football field that we play soccer on.
Well, and why you bring that up, I was told I need some kind of DJ or something there. I don't know. Because I did get a wedding from one of your volleyball things, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, that's another part. We have a DJ at some of our games, just like at Papillion South. So, and then we have an indoor track, the only indoor track in Omaha, 6-lane, 200-meter track. And we have a brand new weight room, and we have our basketball arena is we seat about 600 people, but you've been there. It can get really loud and really.
I felt like I was
good home court advantage.
Yes, it was very loud, and the stands were packed. That's what I thought I really enjoyed. Now, obviously, I've said it to many other people, like the level of basketball or volleyball or sports in college. Yes, Division I, I get it. It is the top dog, but you find your way. There is sports out there, and there's competition out there. I mean, I saw where these kids are still battling the same adversities that a D1 scholarship athlete would face, but obviously maybe not getting full scholarship and maybe not. So if you're able to pay and nursing or medical is your way, don't be afraid of the NAIAAs.
But I would tell you that we do have nice scholarships.
See, and that's where I knew he'd come in and save the day.
And the goal is, if you want to try athletics in college, we can get it to where it's comparable to even less than if you just went to a state school to go to school.
Gotcha. All right.
So the difference between an NAIAA athlete and a Division I athlete is measurables: size, speed, not heart and not skill. So you come to a volleyball game, we're not going to have 6'4" outside hitters. We're going to have 6 foot outside hitters, but they can still hit.
Yes,
they can still dig, and they can still pass.
All the key things to win. Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing all that. And I loved watching just the environment of what the kids enjoyed. They enjoyed the game. And I think sometimes you brought up a great point of where, yes, winning's awesome. We all want to win, but you're making memories with these kids that will last them a lifetime. So I appreciate everything you're doing. Yep. And Jeremy, for yourself, what's something that you feel like you've brought to the table, both in Norfolk before you left, and then when you came down to the Papio area, that you feel is kind of sticking strong?
I think the culture that Jeff developed before I took over was very strong. Again, good coaches, good kids. I think building on that culture, obviously as a building gets older, some improvements need to be made facility wise. I think we've made great strides in that area, and I don't think we're done yet. We got some more things to do. I thank our coaches for that, because they constantly are in my ear about what they need and what we need to improve on. And it's branding your school is big. Kids like to walk into a building and know where you're at. And so we're still working in that area too. But I think we've made strides in both of those areas. Continue to work with our coaches on how to work with kids. I think a challenge, and even when I coach, it's still a challenge today, is, working with those kids that probably aren't your top players, but showing them the same kind of time and energy. And that's something very, very important, because like Jeff said, you don't remember scores and things. You might remember moments. So you want to make it memorable for kids. And I always challenge our coaches, when your kid leaves your program and they walk out in that real world, and if we bring them back in here, what would they say about your program? What would they say about you? Those are some things you have to think about as a coach.
Have you had the chance and opportunity to pull in any kids? Maybe not the starters, maybe not the leaders, maybe not the ones getting all your publicity at any of sports, for either of you?
Yeah,
to find out what your program's
all
really
the time.
about?
Yeah. I mean, when you see kids in the hallway that you don't normally talk to, it's a great chance to pull them aside and have a conversation. Hey, how's baseball going? You enjoying yourself? And I mean, I would say 99% of them say, yeah, I love it. This is a great experience. And they'll mention one coach that really helps them. It's really made an impact. So
That's always
Yeah.
good to hear the good stories.
It's all about the student athlete experience, whether it's high school or college. And you want to give them that good experience. You want good facilities. You want good transportation. You want good coaches. You want to take some trips and, stay in motels and do stuff like that. Be able to go out to eat after a game and eat something nice and not a Subway sandwich. Not that Subway's not nice, but
yes.
it's just getting with your team. And, I would say, as somebody that was at Vista South for 17 years, is this your 10th year as AD?
Yeah.
I think during his tenure, they touched every facility there. Video boards in the gyms and football stadium and new turf and baseball scoreboards and seating and
So does that make you almost cry, like knowing that, man, that could have been me?
No, I would have probably screwed that up somehow. No, you look at that and you go, man, this is so cool, because it was way different growing up for me. We didn't have club sports, and he and I played recreation baseball in a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
That we had to walk around and pick up the rocks before we could play baseball. It was city rec baseball. And now when you look at the place where these kids, that probably puts a tear in my eye. Like, I wish I would have been born 40 years later.
A little later.
Because my parents saved a lot of money. I told them that, you've saved a lot of money by having me 58 years ago.
I would tell you too, Wick, I having the ability to have an assistant, which Jeff didn't have when he was at Vista South. Brent Gearing was my assistant. Now Bubba Peñas. Bubba left for a while and came back. But both those guys have freed me up to do some different things that I probably wouldn't have the time to do in terms of our department. And you also got to mention activities. I know you're part of the Blue Crew and all the dads there at show choir, and that group has grown. Band has grown.
Please tell me
drama.
There's in the works a bigger theater, because they are packing houses and they're bringing trophies.
Yeah, they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they are.
And that
I would love to give you an answer for that.
we know that there can't be an answer for that, but obviously, one thing that I do have to ask you guys, I don't know if did you guys hear of how Papillion was before, when it was just the Monarchs and the old junior high school was the football stadium?
Mm-hmm.
So
we played there for 2 years.
You did? Okay.
Before the stadium was the stadium. When I came a year before we opened, and we had the bond issue, put the turf and track in, but no stadium.
Gotcha.
So we still played at the pit.
So is there a reason we never rebuild that for even just the Monarchs? Because the old place, because I tell you, that to me was high school football, probably of what you experienced when you were going through Norfolk, because
our stadium would have been very similar to the pit.
After a game, I remember walking up to the local Pizza Hut. The whole street was filled with people just walking. And it's like, I like the new stadium, but obviously you're having to share it. You're having to both make sure who's on it at the right times, the wrong times. Is there anything that's possibly in the works to make it where you're not that stressed?
Well, so here's a question to ask you. How many districts that have multiple high schools have multiple stadiums?
OPS. Lincoln.
No, not Lincoln.
Well, Lincoln has 2.
They have 2.
6.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so OPS has 8 high schools.
And they got
They didn't always have their own.
No, they didn't.
They've slowly
built them.
So
will the whole get rebuilt?
Bellevue. Here's the
Bellevue
outlier.
has 2.
And it's because of a thing called impact aid.
Okay.
Which is a government
part that everybody don't know.
So Papillion doesn't get near the impact aid that Bellevue gets because of the military base.
Gotcha.
So financially, it doesn't make sense to have 2 stadiums, because it's how many games, right?
Correct. I got
Makes sense to have 2 gyms because it's 5 basketball teams with 20 game schedules. That's a lot of games. But when it comes down to varsity football or varsity soccer games, there's not as many games. Will they ever rebuild a pit? I would guess they would rather have a stadium at their high school.
Okay. I get that makes more sense.
Again, that's
God, the pick.
It
was fun.
It was. It was a huge home field advantage, but that's a decision that's above our pay grade,
of course,
to decide if they want to do that. But you got to look at parking. You got to look at infrastructure. You got to look at getting 5,000 people out after a game, and how fast can you get them out? And that's really why that became Papillion South, was because Papillion South sits on 80 acres. The Monarchs don't have 80 acres. They're landlocked.
Yeah.
So you can build a bigger parking lot, and you have a major highway with a stoplight, and
all the things to get them in and out safely.
yeah.
Well, of course, 2023, you're the Nebraska Athletic Director. We'll get you guys out on this. Being a guy who's been in the business for as long as you have, seeing one of your mentees go up and get those honors, what is that feeling for you? And what are you wishing for the future?
No, it's icing on the cake. I mean, he spent so much time working within that organization. So I believe in professional organizations, and I was part of NSI AAA. I was a board member, and then I did the advertisers for the fall convention. So I think it's really important. He took it a step further, and he was the president, and you did it twice, right?
Yeah.
Like you stuck with it for 2 years
Yeah.
because of COVID.
Yeah.
So, very deserving of that honor. What do I wish for him for the future? No more COVID. Win some state championships
Yeah.
across the board. We didn't touch on fine arts, and I can't tell you how strong fine arts are at Papillion Vista South. I mean,
I'm glad you're bringing it up. I'm not afraid of it. I like it.
I mean, there's been 3 band directors in 20 years. There's been 2 vocal music directors in 20 years, and the success that those programs have had. We had a senior class at Papillion South. So when we opened, the seniors could decide they could stay or go.
Yeah.
We had a senior class because of band, because Bill Kellett came from the Monarchs to Papillion South, and he brought about 20 seniors with him for band. Otherwise, we would have had less than 20. I think we probably had about 80 kids our first year senior class.
Whoa. Okay.
So opportunities for some athletes that were going to play at Monarchs, they came our way, and then fine arts kids.
Awesome.
But those programs, and what a lot of people don't know, as a parent, and we know as activities directors, is how much time and effort they put in. Every bit as much as any of the athletic teams.
If not more. I mean, I know the band's out there before the sun even breaks, then they come back after football's done.
Yeah.
Let me say that again, after football. And I ain't even had a band student. I just hear it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And for you, Jeremy, obviously winning it all, as some might say, or winning a award like that, knowing that all the hard work, how does that go for you? What's your feelings and thoughts? And then, what do you see going on at some of the college level with your mentor up above you?
Well, I'm not big into all of that, to be honest with you. Believe it or not, I'm a pretty humble guy. He might tell you different because I played for him, and at times I get a little, maybe some arrogance in me, but I don't like all that, but I appreciate it. Coming from my peers is a great thing. One of the things when I got involved in the organization, I told myself, I'm anybody that's on that board. And when I go to our fall conventions, I'll try to talk to as many people as I can, not just Class A people. Cause I've been there. I mean, I was at a Class D school for 4 years, and it's tough. It's hard. You don't have a lot of advantages that bigger schools have. And so, just to appreciate those people, I think is a big thing. And I try to do that. Still do. So, moving forward, I don't know. I mean, I'm getting closer to retirement here. So, I don't know, maybe Jeff's got something for me. I don't know what he's got going over there, but, I'll carry your equipment to DJ. How's that? I have carried it in. But I don't know. I mean, all my kids will be done with college, and, we're empty nesters now, my wife and I, so it's a little different, but, you get a lot different when they're all on their own and have jobs and maybe start families.
No more college. And
no, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what's out there. And, the connections that you build through this profession, Jeff would tell you, are humongous, and it's a huge advantage. And so, I reach out to some people that I know, and I get a little bit of time to figure out, but yeah, it's a next phase in your life. You want to do something different, do something either challenging or unchallenging. You can choose that any way that you want. So I know this. I don't want 200 emails a day like I get. So I know that. But
well, I do appreciate your guys' time. I appreciate your stories. I appreciate just letting people know a little bit about what it is to be an AD, what some of the struggles are, because obviously for us, it's hindsight's 2020. We think everything's roses. But when you think of all the things that you guys have been through, COVID, starting of a school, coming in, taking over after people, but obviously you got where kids can go out of district very easily. Those stresses, AAU picking up, volleyball picking up, soccer picking up, and still to be able to put a product on the field with your coaches has got to be one of the biggest and best feelings. The wins will come. You've already said it. You guys are creating an atmosphere where kids want to be a part of it. And I think those are things that not everybody sees, the behind the scenes of how can I make people want to be a part of what we're giving here. So if you have any athletes out there, or even just students, College St. Mary's local, of course, if you're a Papillion kid, there's always a connection with Mr. Johnson here. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the story.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Thanks for having us.
And if you guys have anything else, remember this is a Herdats production, Wired Access, DJ K-Dub Omaha, Jeff Johnson, Jeremy VanAckeren, Mr. VA. We'll see you next time.